Hello, everybody. Welcome to Endoscopy Talks. I'm Dave Tweed from Colorado State University, and thanking you for joining us on behalf of Colorado State University's new Translational Medicine Institute. So today we're joined by Dr. Brian Evans, the owner of Coastal Animal Hospital in San Diego, California. Dr. Evans graduated from vet school at UC Davis and did an internship at the Animal Medical Center in New York City. He started doing laparoscopy in 2012 and just 5 years later published a paper in the JAVMA on economics of rigid endoscopy. Today, Brian will speak to us about how to achieve a good return on investment of rigid endoscopy equipment, as well as some techniques to minimize or maximize utility of that equipment and create client value. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian, and you can continue.
Thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to be part of this. This has been a great series so far, and thank you again for inviting me. This is really excited about it. So I'm going to just jump right into it. Let me share my screen. So yeah, as Dr. Tweet just noted there, we're going to be talking about marketing rigid endoscopy and maximizing our return on investment. It's going to be three goals to this lecture. We're going to first start on just talking about the return on investment of rigid endoscopy. This is a big expense. What can we expect? Is it a good investment or not? And we'll go into some details of that. The second part is creating client value outside of the lap spay. Lap spay is a one-time procedure. You should only spay a dog once. And so how can we make this equipment that we've purchased a lot more useful than that one-time procedure for that animal? And then finally, actually getting into marketing and keys to success and things that can help you be successful in the long term with this and get the most out of the value you're investing in. So a little bit about myself. Again, I am a graduate of UC Davis. I did my internship at AMC in New York City, and I opened up my own hospital in San Diego in 2011, and now have two hospitals here in San Diego. Kind of the point behind this and what I'm talking about today is that kind of notice that I'm not a specialist. I don't have an MBA. I am not some SEO guru. Everything that I'm doing, I am figuring out kind of, as I go along. I'm a small animal practitioner slogging through every single day, just like you. So nothing that I'm going to talk about today is all that technical. It's all stuff that you can do, and you don't need to have any sort of advanced training to do. So that's kind of the nice thing. Everything here is just very practical and easy to implement. So what's the return on investment of rigid endoscopy? And when I was first thinking about doing this, I had some big questions. If I was going to make this big investment, if I was going to start doing laparoscopy, kind of my main questions were, was it even feasible in a brand new general practice? And is it a skill that can be learned and incorporated? Before buying this stuff, I had never touched the equipment. I had never done any sort of training courses. I'd never put my hands on this stuff. Was I even going to be able to do this? I really didn't know. Do clients even want it? Are they satisfied with it? Do they notice a difference? And my fourth question when I was thinking about buying this was, is it economically viable? And that was kind of the real big question mark for me, because the top three, I felt like I could answer those questions. There was other papers published on that, in terms of learning the skill. I played a lot of video games as a kid. I did a lot of sports. I felt like I had really good hand-eye coordination. So I kind of thought that was going to be fine. There's papers published on client satisfaction and, showing that there is, the benefits of being less painful. So I thought the top three questions were fairly easy to answer. But the fourth one, is it economically viable, was the question that there was no data on. There was nothing out there to tell me whether or not this was going to be a good investment or a bad investment. And so when I purchased the equipment, I collected all that data over the course of a year because I wanted to know personally, did I make a good choice in buying this stuff, or did I make a bad choice? And anybody coming behind me, any other veterinarians in this exact same position I'm in, I wanted this information for them so they know whether or not this was, something that they should invest in as well. So we collected that data and we did get it published in JAVMA back in 2017. And, you can look through the paper, but I'm going to highlight kind of some of the findings of that, as well as kind of bring in some of the extra color, because when we publish that paper, we'll talk about kind of the numbers that we found, but one of the important parts is we're kind of a worst case scenario. Our hospital, when we bought it, is almost, the findings here should almost be a minimum. This is kind of what the absolute minimum you should get as a return on investment because of who we were the moment that we bought it. So when I purchased this equipment, we had only been open for 6 months. And any of you who are practitioners out there, if you own your hospital, if you bought it from somebody else and took over a practice, then you already had a pretty decent sized client base. But if you're one of the practitioners like myself that started your practice from scratch, you know how hard it was those first 6 months or even that first year. There's a lot of big gaps in your schedule. You don't have a lot of clients. And so, when I purchased this equipment 6 months after I opened my doors, I only had 349 clients in my database. That is not a lot of people. I'm not going to really be able to do a lot of laparoscopic procedures on those 349 clients' pits because there's just, they don't need it. I was a 1-doctor clinic for those first 4 months and then added a part-time doctor. And importantly, prior to incorporating laparoscopy, I was only performing 1.4 spays per month and charging a whopping $482 for those spays. So I was only bringing in $675 a month in revenue from spays. So when you're thinking about how am I going to pay for this equipment, even when I start charging more for these spays, I'm not going to be able to pay for it if I'm only thinking that I'm going to be using this for my current client base. So if you look at the cold hard numbers of what we were doing, this was a really poor purchase decision based on my current scale, based on my current client base, based on everything. So, but I still bought it. And because my hypothesis, my feeling was that I wasn't going to be using this for my clients. I was going to be collecting a bunch of new clients because I think people want this and there's not enough people offering it. So I'm going to just market the heck out of it. And I think I can be successful with it. But again, it was a big leap of faith for me because I didn't know. So over the course of the year, we did 75 procedures. Most of them were spays, some videotoscopies and gastropexies, some rhinoscopies, a smattering of other things, but the majority of them were spays. And you can see we went from doing 1.4 spays per month up to 4.1 by the end of the year. So we definitely increased the number of surgeries that we were doing. And over the course of the year, there were no major complications. In terms of the clients, we had greater than 90% follow through after the initial consult. So people weren't, they didn't hear about it and got scared away on price or anything else. They still followed through the majority of the time. And this was an important one, is that we had 28 new clients who specifically came for a laparoscopic procedure. So these are clients that would have never come into our hospital had we not purchased the equipment, and they came in and had a surgery done. In terms of the investment, we invested the total of everything that I invested, including the total of the 5-year lease, all the training, the extra supplies, everything that I did, came out to about $57,000. However, I only needed to outlay about $15,000 in cash because we leased the equipment. So only $15,000 came out of my pocket, but the total amount that I invested in this equipment was $57,000. And then after 1 year, our gross revenue was $50,000. So, our time to a positive return on investment is just a little bit over a year, and not bad. I mean, for everything we did, we brought in 50 grand, but we were cash positive by about $36,000 because again, I leased the equipment. So it was actually generating positive cash flow for me in that first year. Here's a great number. The revenue from new procedures. These are procedures that we were not able to do prior to purchasing the equipment, like rhinoscopy, vaginoscopy, laparoscopic liver biopsies, all these things that we would have had to refer out to specialists to do, we were able to do in-house. So we generated $13,000 from that. And then total gross revenue from our new clients, the clients who only came in because we had this laparoscopic equipment, was $27,000. So if you add up the revenue from the new clients who only came because of laparoscopy, plus the new procedures we were able to do because of the equipment that we had that we weren't able to do before, we generated $40,000 in new revenue that our hospital would have never seen if we didn't buy the equipment. Again, if you're one of these practitioners who started up your own practice, think about that. Think about what it was like those first 6 months, that first year. $40,000 was a lot of money to us at that time because, you know, that was probably a month's worth of revenue. And so that was a real practice builder for us and really kind of helped for us to kind of launch our business in that first year. So the conclusion of the paper was, is laparoscopy and rigid endoscopy feasible for a 1 to 2 doctor practice? Yes. The learning curve was steep, but there was no major complications. It was well received by staff and clients, and we found it to be economically viable. So when we purchased this equipment, how does it increase value for the practice? And one of the ways I like to think about this are the opportunities lost. It's, you know, that fear of missing out. What are you not going to get if you don't purchase this equipment? And one of the big things are just new clients. So in the first year, we got 28 new clients. And one of the ways that that paper didn't really show kind of what that true value is a lot of those new clients ended up keeping us as their primary veterinarian. They came in, they saw us, they really liked us, and they kept coming back to us. So we had recurring kind of residual revenue from those clients who brought their pet back in when they were sick or needed their refill of their flea and heartworm medication. So they actually provided more money than that $27,000 that was cited in the paper. But here's this, I just ran numbers prior to while I was putting this together. We're 8 years in now, and we get about 130 new clients per year. So think about that. Again, if we would have never purchased this equipment, we're getting 130 new clients, and these are good clients who want to spend over $1,000, you know, to have these surgeries done. So it is generating a significant amount of recurring revenue every single year with all of these new clients who just come in and they want this surgery done on their dogs. Also, as I was prepping this lecture, this email came in from our website on a Contact Us Now. And it's just such a classic email. I had to put it in here because I get these emails all the time. And I highlighted kind of the important parts of this. So I have a 1-year-old female mini dachshund, and she was meant to be spayed through a traditional spay surgery, but then someone recommended you on a forum I'm on for dachshunds in San Diego. And I had no idea Love Spays existed. And I'll talk about Love Spays in a second. What would be required to get her set up for a Love Spay with you all instead and establish care with you all? Are you taking new clients? These emails come in all the time. Notice she didn't ask about price here. She's already sold. She wants to be a client. We had to do no work. It's all through, you know, word of mouth and then our website finding us, reading about it. And we get new clients like this all the time. And these are high quality, great clients who just want the best thing for their animal. So these are the opportunities that you get, and it just makes your practice a better practice and easier because the marketing kind of does itself through these forums and word of mouth. Next part is market potential. You're missing out on this total market potential. You know, pets are family now. People want the best thing for them, and millennials are the largest pet owning population that's out there, and they're willing to spend money on their pets. They want the best thing for them. So this is one of my favorite graphics. I made this for another lecture back in 2016, and I did a plot point of everybody who had come to us up until that point for a lap spay. And to give you some perspective, anybody who's not from Southern California, this is the majority of Southern California. All this down here is San Diego. This is Los Angeles. Let me get my pointer. This is Los Angeles here. And so these are huge areas. And you can see this is our practice right here. A couple things I like to point out. First off, these people coming from Los Angeles, it'll take you anywhere from 3 hours to 7 hours to drive up to Pasadena here or Hollywood. And these people made it happen and dropped their pet off at 8 o'clock in the morning. So they were willing to drive 3 to 7 hours to get here to have us do that. I've asked a client every single time when they come from these far places, why are you coming to us? Like, because in Los Angeles, there's a bunch of other people who are doing lap spays. It's not just, it's not just us down here. There's 5 to 10 at least veterinarians doing that. Every single time I get 2 answers. One, and the main thing that everybody tells me is that the other veterinarians aren't charging enough. Think about that. These people are driving hours, fighting Los Angeles traffic to pay more money to have us do it. They just didn't trust those other veterinarians because they weren't charging them enough money. Something must be off. The second thing was, it's just our website. They said they got more information from our website. It looked more professional. It looked more modern. It looked, cleaner, and they just liked the information that they got, and they felt more comfortable with us doing it than anybody else. And so they drove from all over. This is Palm Springs, top of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and this is as of 2016. We've had more clients, coming from these far reaches, up from Mexico. So that's item 1. Item 2 is looking at it here. We're here. This is downtown San Diego. It takes anywhere from 45 minutes, even an hour to get from some of these places into our hospital. And look at that reach. When I first started marketing this, I had, and we'll talk about this down the road, but I had to educate all of San Diego about what laparoscopy was. So I cast that net wide and marketed to the entire county. And you can see that it worked. I got a really good response from that from all over. But the other kind of interesting thing with this is when I made this plot, I also just looked, where are all of our clients coming from? Not just people who came from for lap spay. Where are all of our clients? And there's kind of an old rule in that 90% of your clients come from a 3 to 5 mile range from around your practice. So everybody's coming from a pretty short distance around you, 90% of your clients. When I ran that statistic through our database, I found that only 50% of our clients were coming from within a 3 to 5 mile range. The other 50% were coming from all over the rest of San Diego. And think about that. We are, because of the marketing that we're doing, because of the surgeries that we're doing, and the word of mouth that we're generating because of it, only half of our clients are coming from that tiny window. Our practice would not be what it is today had we not done this. We are punching well above our weight in terms of reach and revenue because of laparoscopy. So I really, I think this was one of the most impactful things that I found a couple of years into it of really what laparoscopy has done for us. So besides new clients, the other opportunity you'll miss out on are the increased revenue streams like we had, with lap spay, rhinoscopy, vaginoscopy, liver biopsies, etc. But then it's kind of the more ethereal, maybe not easily quantifiable things that you're going to be missing out on if you don't do it. And one of those are professional enhancement and job satisfaction. I hated doing space. I'm not a surgeon, I enjoy surgery somewhat, but it's not something that really gets me up. I never considered myself to be a wannabe surgeon. I really hated doing space. I love doing laparoscopic space. I mean, I enjoy it. My staff can see it. When I have a lap spay, they know I get in a good mood. I'm ready to go. It's, I'm playing video games with ovaries. It's really fun. So it's made my job better. But 2, it's also made staff retention better. So our staff is proud to come in. They're really proud of what we do, and they like to talk about it, and they get excited about it as well. We're actually practicing best medicine. They see that investment that we're making in it, as well as the other doctors. So I've had the other doctors that work for us tell me, like, I'm never going to leave this place because I don't ever want to go back to doing a traditional spay. I only want to do laparoscopic spay for the rest of my career. So they're not going anywhere. So that staff retention is really important. But then also we get higher quality applicants. Anytime we're putting out an ad for, technicians or veterinarians, we get way more applicants than anyone else. And everybody's struggling to get people, and we always seem to get some really high quality applicants every single time we're putting that out there, because our reputation is great in the community, and people are seeing that we're doing something other than just the standard, you can work anywhere and get all that other stuff, but you get something different when you come work for us. So the last thing is, you're going to miss out on an opportunity to distinguish yourself while still possible. And you think about, what is your value proposition? when somebody calls up to say, you know, hey, how much is a Spay at your hospital? What are you going to tell them? How do you differentiate yourself from the practice down the road? And you know, the problem is that everybody then kind of competes on price. And if you're just competing on price, that's kind of a terrible game to play. You know, you could do something like, we do a laser Spay, but you know, I've done laser Spays. It's just kind of a gimmick. It doesn't actually change the outcome at all. So how do you set yourself apart? And we're going to be talking about value propositions a little bit later, but this is a great value proposition. We do lap Spays. Let me tell you exactly what a lap Spay is and why it's so much better than a traditional Spay. And we can convert those clients who are maybe just calling me trying to find the cheapest Spay. Like, oh, they're okay. I'm hearing you. Okay, there's a better way to do this that's gonna be less painful. Okay, I'll invest in that. So it gives you a really good value proposition. So questions?
Yeah, Brian, we have a couple of questions. One is, what initially attracted you to minimally invasive surgical procedures?
Yeah, so I had read some of the papers on it. I had kind of heard about it as I was, you know, earlier in my career. I was working at another hospital, and it was something that I really, you know, thought was going to be kind of the next step in practicing better medicine. I also, a friend of mine is Brad Case at University of Florida, and I had spoken with him about it, and he is, you know, really heavily involved in laparoscopy. And so kind of through some of his mentorship and then some of the research that I had done, I felt like this was something that was going to be better for the animals and kind of take our medicine to the next level.
Great. We have two questions that are almost very similar. And one is, I'm fascinated by the fact that people drive to you from LA as they perceive LA vets are not charging enough. How much more do you charge, and how important is this? And another question said, how do you really determine the upper limit of acceptable in charging?
Yeah, so I think we have to be a little careful about talking about, you know, pricing, you know, exact pricing. So we're not price fixing anything here, and, you know, kind of avoiding those type discussions. But when I initially started doing it, I charged probably like $300 to $400 more than what I was currently charging. And that I found, you know, was great just because it got me a lot of experience, but it isn't enough. And I don't think I've actually reach the upper limit of what people are willing to pay for. And so in the coming year, I'm actually going to be increasing my price by another couple $100, because it is people who want it, they want it. It's a one-time surgery. So when you're thinking about, you know, what is the upper limit of price, I guess you have to say, you know, I guess I haven't found it. That's the point is, I haven't reached it yet, so I can't tell you what that upper limit of price is.
Yeah. Another question is, you live in a large metropolitan area. I'm in a small market of a little less than 100,000 population. Mm-hmm. Can I do the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, so especially if you're in 100,000 population, there's still going to be the spectrum of clients, you know, and so again, people want the best thing for their pets, and millennials are the largest pet owning population, and again, they are willing to spend money on it. I'll talk about this in kind of one of the next slides, but you know, thinking about getting creative for pricing models in your market. If you really come from an economically depressed area and you still want to do this, you can do it and charge full price for it. Let's say kind of the average lap Spay is $1,000. You can consider something like a sliding scale based on income. So you are going to be able to provide that service for all of your clients, but you are not devaluing it, you know, from really what it is. You're going to create, you know, like a couple low-cost Spays per month for set aside for people, or you know, you kind of have to get creative based on what your true market is.
Okay, good. That's it for now. So okay. Hopefully, if people have questions, they will type those in the Q&A. So okay. You can continue.
So kind of the next part of this is creating value beyond the lap Spay. And this is something that I didn't really fully maximize until recently, but just thinking about it, when I was doing all the marketing, we're talking about marketing lap Spays. It's such a niche. one, you're only marketing to female dogs. Yes, there's Crypt Orchid and everything else, but really you're talking about female dogs, young female dogs who are not spayed. So you are looking for these little, tiny population of all the dogs that are out there, and you spay them just once, and hopefully. So it's a one-time procedure. You're looking for all this kind of constant new, kind of niche market of basically purebred dogs on average, and of people who want the best thing. So yes, it's great, but there's a lot more value of this equipment than just this lap spay. And so we all know that if you're using laparoscopy now, it's just the being able to see everything makes it so much easier. My clients, they trust me, but they don't always believe me or follow through on my recommendations. Think about, you tell a client, your dog has dental disease. That's painful. We should get those teeth cleaned. Yeah, doc, but he's still eating, so he's fine, and they don't follow through on that recommendation. But when you can actually show them, they really do seem to believe you more. So they need to be kind of part of that conversation. So when I opened my second hospital, I made one change when I bought my second set of laparoscopic equipment that has really changed the way I practice. And that is this. So we use the Telepath, and instead of putting it on the cart with all of my insufflator and my ligature, my Cayman that we use, we put it on its own separate cart. And with that, I also made one other change in that I kind of modified their cart and I put on this battery pack, because now I can wheel this into every single exam room and use it for video otoscopy. So instead of using this tower, once a day maybe, or a couple times a week for a lap spay, I'm now using this tower 15 times a day. It's coming in and out of every single exam room, and I am not only seeing more, but I'm also showing the clients. And through this repetition, it's one of the best tools you're ever going to have, because as you're looking in that ear, the clients are also looking in that ear. And so they don't have to believe you anymore. They see it and they know exactly what's going on. So there's actually one other change that I made too. Because when I purchased all the equipment initially, I had this. This is the Procedural Scope. And you probably have this as well if you're doing video otoscopy. It's great. You need this scope to kind of do your procedures, flush out the ears, pull out foxtails, whatever it is. This is the only one I had. And it never really worked all that well for in-room kind of video otoscopy, because the dogs just kind of hated it as you're trying to get in there deep and they're moving their head around, and maybe it's just my technique wasn't very good, but it never really kind of seemed to work all that great. But I went and visited Munir Qureshi, and a big shout out to him, and thanking him for opening up his practice and showing me what he does up in Northern California. And he's the one that introduced me to this scope, and this has made all the difference for me as well. I now have a diagnostic scope and a procedural scope. And the whole reason why this is so much better is you can see just how much more narrow this scope is the whole way. And this is looking at it end on. And so the benefits of this is that, this scope is only 4 millimeters at the end, whereas this is 5 millimeters at the end here. But this maintains its 4 millimeters the entire length, whereas this one gets over, 8 millimeters towards the base of it there. You also get a larger camera here compared to that, and there's no working channel, which you don't need if you're just looking in the ear to see what's going on in there. I don't like this working channel for diagnostic because it's getting gunked up every single time you're going in there. You're kind of putting some of that earwax in it, and I just think for cross-contamination, it's not ideal. But with this, having this 4 millimeters the entire length, I can pull that ear down, get all the way near that eardrum, and I can just sit there and look around for a little bit, and it's not uncomfortable for the dog. Whereas as you got deeper in with the procedural scope, it kept putting more and more pressure on that ear and expanding, and then they'd start moving around. So it was difficult to get a good view. So having the diagnostic scope and the procedural scope were also key. So I'm finding more disease than ever. When I just do my handheld video otoscopy, or my handheld, kind of old school light otoscopy, yeah, I think I missed a lot of stuff, or I just ignored a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. Also, clients are seeing the disease. so they have buy-in. Think about when you do you find an ear infection. And I've always said the exact same thing. I say, okay, we found an ear infection. We need to clean out these ears and treat it for until these ears are 100% normal. And I can look in there, it looks great, and I'll do a cytology and make sure that's clear. And then we'll high five and say this ear infection is clear. And the clients maybe will come in for that 2-week recheck before. And I'll say, oh, there's still an ear infection. We need to keep treating. And they say, oh, but he's not shaking his head. He's fine. They never come back again. And that's really kind of what normally happened before I started doing this. Once I started showing the clients with this video otoscope, now they can't wait to get back in. They are really excited, to see what I'm going to find on this video camera, and they're going to see whether or not they made that progress cleaning out that ears. And then if they don't, they say, oh, all right, I'm going to get back at it. And then they'll come in for the follow-up 2 weeks later, and then 2 weeks after that, until this is all the way clear. So we actually get clients who are excited about recheck exams, which is amazing. And again, this is all pre-COVID, obviously, where we, right now we don't have the clients in the exam room, so it's not as great for this. But once this, we can get them back in there, you will find that this is an incredible selling tool. As well as, because the clients are seeing it, I'm doing a lot more anesthetized ear flushes, where I'm removing organic debris, flushing it out with a vet pump too. Also, so I like to talk about some of these cerumeless. I really ignored cerumeless for a long time, and now I'm a lot more proactive about getting them out, and I'll show you an example of that. But I can better evaluate the eardrum, and I'm often combining them with another procedure as a dental, because if we're going to anesthetize this animal to clean out their ears, well, they're already out. We should probably also clean their teeth, and the owners are really on board for that. So it is driving revenue in other parts of the practice as well. So here's an example of Max. He is a 2-year-old dachshund, and just again came in for a wellness exam. I found cerumeless covering both eardrums, and the owner tried cleaning this out at home for a month, and she really didn't make any progress. So you can see that thing there. So we were able to get this cerumeless out once he was anesthetized, and you can kind of see a good picture of that totally filling up that area of the eardrum there. So he can't hear, that thing is kind of blocking him up. He's probably not hearing super well. I get my polypropylene catheter in there and start flushing this thing out. And the more I flush it, eventually you'll see this thing is going to pop out here in just a second. And there it comes. So high pressure flow, getting that thing all the way out. This is what that eardrum looks like after you get that thing out there. Look, it's really thickened in there. That does not look like a normal eardrum. So having that cerumeless sitting on that eardrum is not ideal, especially in these young dogs. This is the right ear. Again, kind of similar. Just want to show, this looks actually a lot smaller. And I couldn't get this one out with flushing, and you'll see it just kind of bouncing around in there. The flushing apparatus, polypropylene catheter, couldn't get that one to go. So basically, I had to go in there and grab this with, let's go back to this one. I had to go in there with my my grasping biopsy forceps or grasping forceps and pull this one out. And again, this looks like kind of a tiny cerumen. It doesn't seem like it's really that big of a deal. But this one ends up actually being bigger than the other side. So when we get this thing out, you'll see kind of how much that filled up that entire area over the tympanum. And imagine you're looking in with your handheld otoscope. You're not really going to be able to see that very well, or I would see those and ignore them. And again, look at how thickened that eardrum is. This dog is living with chronic inflammation over that eardrum, and he's only 2 years old. So what happens if we leave that in there his entire life? Is that thing ever going to come out on its own? Probably not. So think about that value for that client is we're finding these, dealing with them, and then now they feel good that they've been able to treat that ear that they didn't even know was a problem. If you want to create, if you want to get clients really sold on it, here is one use of this video otoscope in the exam room, which is amazing. So new kitten exam, this cat's shaking his head, and the ear is really itchy. So I tried putting the scope in there and I wasn't really able to get a good view because every time I went in, the cat started shaking his head. But look at this thing right there. I saw that and I was like, uh-oh, I'm gonna blow these clients' mind right now. So instead of putting the camera in there, I just took a cotton swab of all that debris and then took it out. And this is using the camera in the exam room. You can really get a super tight focus and show the clients right in front of them all these things that are crawling inside of their cat's ear. If you want a client to start throwing money at you, this is the way to do that. This is disgusting, and you don't need a microscope for that. You just use your camera in the exam room, and we can get that diagnosis really easily, and it's kind of an amazing case. This is the other thing that we find routinely on wellness exams are foxtails. I don't know if you have foxtails in your area. Here in San Diego, we get these little grass-ons that go into the dog's ears, and typically dogs are shaking their head and are terribly uncomfortable when these things go in their ears or up their nose or any other place. But I'm finding a lot more dogs who just have these things living in their ears and they're not showing any clinical signs. And my theory is that they sit in there and they don't shake their head because when they do it, I think it hurts because it's kind of driving into their eardrums. They just stop shaking. And this is an example. So 9-year-old female spayed poodle mix came in for a wellness exam, just needed a refill of her seizure medications, and per the owner, no head shaking, she's totally fine. And think about even doing this exam with your handheld otoscope. You know, most of the time, I probably in the past would have maybe not looked as much because it's just gonna be full of hair. You're not gonna see very much. But here's what I found when I went in her, is going in, pulling that ear down and kind of popping through all that hair, and you can see here's the edge of a foxtail that I found. And it's all covered in wax. And you kind of got a little bit gunked up on my camera because going through that hair, put a little bit of wax on there, but I was able to see that. And then we anesthetized her. And you get a better view of these telltale kind of ons coming out, plant ons coming out right there. And look at how much wax is over this foxtail. This thing has been sitting in there for a long time. You know, it could have been there 4 months, 6 months, who knows? But that thing has, that thing's been living in there for a while. And think about that client perception. So they bring their dog into you for a wellness exam that they probably thought was pointless. You know, their dog's fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Doc, you know, you're wasting my time and my money. Well, not only did you find the foxtail, they saw it as well. And so they're, oh, I had no idea that my dog had this in there. You can really kind of create a bond and create tons of value for these wellness exams, because when you're doing these complete exams with the video otoscope, you find so many things that you wouldn't have otherwise. So how are we creating that value? We're using the equipment to show clients what we normally see in the exam room, and we're making them part of the exam. You don't have to sell your treatments anymore. They see it and they understand it. I'm also practicing way better medicine than what I was using handheld otoscopy. I get this wow factor. You know, clients, every time I start going in there for the very first time, I'm meeting a new client, they see me use this video otoscope and they're like, ooh, I've never seen this before. And it really is a wow factor for your clients. And the equipment is no longer idle 90% of the day. I'm using this scope 15 times a day, and it continues to generate revenue, not just that one time we're doing a lap spay in the morning and then the rest of the day it just sits in the surgical suite. Questions?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. One of the questions is, does your staff help you sell these procedures, and how do you motivate them?
So that is part of what we'll talk about in the next section, is getting the staff involved with all of this. So I'll address that then. In terms of motivating them, though, you know, we don't have any sort of incentive program. We motivate them. They're motivated to sell it because they know that this is so much better for the pets. But I will address that in the next section.
Okay. I guess the question I have is the otoscopic exam part of your general exam fee, or do you charge a little bit more for pulling out the otoscope?
I don't. It's every single exam every time.
Okay. Do you do any endoscopies beyond laparoscopy and otoscopy? What will be next for you?
So I did not get a flexible scope. So that's another area that if in your practice, you feel like you would do a lot of, yeah, there's a ton of value you can get out of that as well. It's just never been something that I've done, I guess, to this point. The next thing that I'm really excited about learning and figuring out is switching my my gastropexy from a lap-assisted gastropexy to a total intracorporeal gastropexy. I just need some time to kind of get some training and learn that, but that's kind of where I think we're headed next.
Yeah. I have one more question. I perform keyhole spays, an average of 1 centimeter incision without excision of the uterus. What is the full advantage of doing so with laparoscopy? Lack of tension on the suspensory ligaments?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, and I get that a lot, and that's what we talk about. There's a video I didn't include in this, but the difference between a lap spay and a traditional spay, whether or not you're doing a keyhole surgery, which is great, small incisions, that's not where the pain benefit comes from. When you're doing your traditional spay and you're tearing down that suspensory ligament, it hurts so much that those animals wake up, and you have to really get them deep in order to prevent them from jumping off the table. When you're doing the lap spays, and I have a really great video that shows that suspensory ligament and where it attaches. It attaches right next to the diaphragm. And so when you rip that off, you're ripping the ligament and the connective tissue right at the diaphragm. So every time those pets breathe for the next week after surgery, they're feeling that. And so you'll pull on that, and you'll see the kidney move, you'll see the liver move, and you'll see the diaphragm move as you're pulling on it. And so all the pain benefit really is coming from the lack of tearing that down and just using your cautery device to just cauterize through that. And that's why this is a less painful surgery, not so much the incision size.
One last question. Do you explore foxtails in the feet with the scope?
I have put it in there a few times, and in other areas as well, preputial explorers. I've done that where I've pulled foxtails out of that, vaginoscopies, but anytime there's a hole and it's a deep hole, yeah, you can put your scope up there and have fluid kind of flushing and kind of dilating that area, and you will see a lot of stuff. So I have used it in those scenarios.
Okay, that's it for now.
Okay, great. So now let's talk about marketing. A lot of that is, how do we just get the most value, the most return on investment of this equipment? How do we maximize utility of it? But then how do we really convey that utility to the rest of the world? Before we even market, though, there are a few keys to success. And I can't stress this enough, the getting your culture right. So our tagline is modern medicine, classic service. When I first created the hospital, I really spent a lot of time creating, my mission statement, my vision statement, and core values. That's really important because it establishes the culture of the hospital. And you need a place where people are open to, kind of bringing in new ideas, new concepts. They're okay with trying something new and changing the way that they practice medicine. If you go to any website of any veterinary hospital out there, it's probably on your website. It says, we practice best medicine. Every single hospital says that, but not every hospital is practicing best medicine. My question is, well, you're practicing best medicine, but from what year? Is this from the 70s when you graduated? Is this from 2001? What year of best medicine are you practicing? Because if you are still doing ovariohysterectomies, I would argue that's not best medicine. OVEs are superior to OVHs. It's just everybody's been doing OVHs their whole life, and they're just kind of afraid of trying something different, even though there's fewer complications associated with that. You're not doing laparoscopy, which is clearly shows that it's a reduction in pain. I would argue you're probably not practicing best medicine, especially if you're giving vaccines on an annual basis. So all of that, when you say practicing best medicine, are you really living that? And so getting your mission, your vision, your core values in place is really important. And again, I'm not an MBA. I was figuring this out on the fly as I was kind of creating my hospital. I did a ton of reading. And these are some of my kind of the books that I read that kind of helped me to establish that. And Built to Last is probably my favorite of all of those, but How by Dov Seidman and the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell really helped establish the culture of our hospital, of really wanting to kind of push the edge, the boundaries, and do as best a medicine as we can. And so all of those things help to establish the culture. But the last thing is branding. If you're going to really start marketing, especially to a wide audience, not just in your local town, you need to make sure your branding is on point. And I don't think enough hospitals really do focus on that. When you are doing these various advertisements across multiple platforms, you need to make sure you are using the same logo, all your same, colors. Do you know what the colors of your hospital are, where the hex values are? So when you're creating these, your website or these advertorials, you're using the same ones. You need to be using the same font every single time. And so I'm not good at this. I hire this out. I have a graphic designer, but I use the same graphic designer every time. And she's creating this consistent feel across all of our advertisements. Because when clients see it, there's all those subtle cues that they're going to say, oh, I saw it in a magazine. I saw it on, this website. I saw it, here or there. They're going to be able to connect those dots and say, oh yeah, that's Coastal Animal Hospital. That's, Main Street Animal Hospital, whatever it is. And they're going to be able to see you in those multiple lights the same way. And that branding is really key. So you get your culture right. You make sure you have a hospital where everybody is excited about practicing best medicine, that this is something that, taking risks are okay. But 2 is training your receptionist. If you are doing laparoscopic space, if you're doing anything new and your receptionists are not trained on it, it's not going to be successful. And so anytime we get a brand new receptionist in, the very first thing we do is we put them in a mask and a hairnet and tell them to watch this procedure. And I'm talking about the procedure the entire time. I'm letting them know every single step of the way what we're doing. I also have them sit in the exam room with me and listen to me as I talk to clients about the procedure and go through each of the steps and pros and cons and the benefits of the surgery. Because people call up and they say, hey, I have a question about your lapsy, or I have a question about a spay. Can you tell me why you're charging me XYZ dollars? And they need to be able to cite those. And I pop quiz them. I say, what are the top 3 benefits? And then they know that they need to be able to recite those top 3 benefits in a moment's notice and have their little own speech ready about why a lap spay is better than a traditional spay. And it's not just a receptionist. Every staff member in our hospital gets pop quiz, and they all know that they have to be able to cite these things in a moment's notice. So getting your culture right, training your receptionist, using the equipment daily, which we talked about, scoping everything, bring it into your exam rooms for otoscopy. Anytime there's a hole and you can't see what's going on there, put a camera in it. Really important. You have to also be comfortable with the equipment. And then 4, if you believe in it, you need to make it the standard of care. I've seen other people buy the equipment and then still offer a traditional spay right next to a laparoscopic spay, and they're not doing very many laparoscopic spays because you're undermining your own credibility. If you're saying, well, I can do a traditional spay and it's going to hurt a little bit, but I can do a lap spay, it hurts a little bit less. You're saying, well, it's okay to let them hurt this much. It's probably okay to save those $300 or $400 or whatever that price difference is. I'm just going to use the traditional spay. And clients are probably going to choose that more often than not. So don't undermine yourself. Commit to it. And then, as we talked about, as one of the questions are, if needed, you need to get a little creative with pricing for your market. So have a couple free spays per month, or lower cost spays, or have a sliding scale based on income, or just come up with a system that lets you do it for every single patient, and also kind of finds the balance for your community. And then finally, marketing. So don't start marketing until you have those other 4 things set, because if you are starting to push this out there and you don't have your base, your foundation right, then you're going to be, those clients that are calling in are just going to slip right through your fingers, and they're not going to want to come in, and they're going to drive across Los Angeles to come to us, to get this done, because you need to have a kind of a watertight seal when those new clients are coming into your world. So nothing mind-blowing here. For marketing, there's internal and external marketing. The internal marketing that we've done, are all these different things. But kind of for the most bang for the buck that we get is through our website, in-room video otoscopy, and new puppy appointments. Internal marketing is really, it starts the very first time they walk into that exam room. I start talking to them about it. So, just so you know, we do a laparoscopic spay, which is different than a traditional spay. There's a lot of information on our website, and you should look into that a little bit, but we're going to talk about the love spay in more detail down the road. So I plant those seeds from the very first moment they walk in the door. External marketing. Again, here's a list of everything that we have done. Actually, I haven't done too much specific on the bottom two, the breed specific groups and agility dog groups, but we do get a lot of referrals from those just through word of mouth. But everything on that list we've done and had really good success with, and they've kind of served their own needs throughout over the years. But far and away, the two most important things that we have done are just getting a website really nailed down, and with good SEO, organic searches really show up, but also Google Ads. I don't include social media as a really important marketing tool for me in my hands, although I'm sure there are ways to use it effectively and micro-target people who just adopted a puppy. But when people are searching for spays, most of the time they're going to go on Google and they're going to search for something. So I make sure that we do good Google Ads that places us, really high. The challenges. There are huge challenges with this. We are talking about marketing a surgical procedure, and a surgical procedure that is different and complicated and has a terrible name, laparoscopy. Who knows what that word laparoscopy means in a general public setting? That's a big, chunky word, and it's difficult. So when I started doing this in 2012, nobody in San Diego was really doing this surgery, so I had to educate my entire county about what that means. And that's a huge task. So trying to get the word out about this and let people know that it exists is not easy. But I didn't market laparoscopy. I marketed the benefits. And this is one thing that I think is really important. Don't talk about the tech. People don't care about the technology. They just want they want feeling, and you need to market towards the feelings. You want to market towards the benefits. One of my favorites was just less pain, faster recovery, more dog park. They want their dogs to go back and start running around again. When can they play again? When can they swim again? When can they do all this stuff? So we market those benefits and also even market the downsides. This is a more humane way to spay. And market the downsides of a traditional spay. So that's the way I set up all my advertisements. And in general, you kind of think back to that value proposition. What is your value proposition? All your marketing should kind of fall into one of four categories. Marketing is, to your client's biggest pain or frustration. You're going to market to their fears. You're going to market to their goals or desire. You're going to market to their dreams or aspirations. Marketing is manipulation. It is, and that's what it is. I mean, it's kind of terrible. Marketing is terrible because you're just manipulating people. The good news is you can feel good about it with this because we're manipulating them into something that's better for their pets. We're going to be manipulating them into less pain for their animal. And so we're not trying to sell, sugar or, energy drinks or anything else that's kind of terrible. We're trying to sell them something better for their animal. And so the way you have to do that is not through marketing the technology, it's through marketing to their emotions. And this is kind of a Mad Lib that I like to think about. It kind of gets me, I know I'm on the right track if I can make this Mad Lib here, which is I help blank client type. So I help millennials, I help soccer moms, I help executives, I help, blue collar workers achieve, obtain, do product or service, so spays, so they can something they like without something they don't like. So they can make their pet feel better without any of the pain. So you want to market towards something they like and market them away from things that they don't like. You want to solve their problems and make them feel good about what they're doing. So I use this across all my advertisements, across all my marketing, not just for LapSpay, but for our general hospital advertising as well. You want to solve their problems and remove the hindrances from their life. And that's how you know you have a good advertisement. So besides educating the public, you also, unfortunately, need to educate other veterinarians, because a lot of other veterinarians don't know what the benefits of this surgery are. And they'll give your clients a lot of misinformation. They say, like, my incisions are already small. Well, it's not necessarily about those small incisions. It's about the ripping of those that suspensory ligament off of the body wall. I can do a spay in 20 minutes, so laparoscopy takes too long. Well, I can do a lap spay in 20 minutes as well. So that argument kind of falls flat. And the last one is that spays don't hurt. I've heard vets say this, and it just is flat out not true. So you got to educate not only the public, but also other veterinarians about the benefits of this surgery. And I actually marketed to other vets as well. And so you can see these two advertisements. Nobody likes spaying 100-pound overweight, deep-chested dogs, but we do. And so I did this for two reasons. One, I marketed it to other vets just to kind of put it out there that lap spays are out there, they're available, they are better, and also to get referrals. And I did have veterinarians refer in pets to us. And so again, just trying to establish our brand in the community, letting people know we are a high quality practice, they should refer to us, or if you're looking for a job, come work at Coastal. So here's kind of the other part, which is the love spay. Laparoscopic ovariectomy is a terrible name that doesn't resonate with clients at all. So I almost never use the term lap spay. Again, it's just people don't know what that means. So we came up with a love spay. So lap OVE is the shorthand for lap ovariectomy. Highlight those and you get love. And that's the love spay. So I highly encourage you to use this yourself. Don't call it a lap spay, call it a love spay. People they get that feeling, they just instantly know what it means. It's better for their pet. You're showing them more love by spaying them this way. This is not trademarked, use it, put it out there. And you can see this is, these are some of the ways that we have used this in our various advertisements. And also look at how that consistent branding is consistent messaging across all of our, various advertisements. Here's a t-shirt we made, Spayed with Love. We would put on the dogs after they got spayed. Introducing love spays, love the one you're with, love the one you're with. So when clients see these in these various aspects, they're going to say, oh yeah, I remember this. I saw this in the magazine. I saw this in the newspaper. I saw this online, in the brochure in your lobby. It kind of all connects the dots for them. Keep calm and love your pet. So all across the board, we did 100 different ways of advertising. I hired a PR firm and got on every morning news segment when I first got this stuff. And we won't watch it, but we really put ourselves out there. We also created a video on our website that kind of goes into a little bit more detail about what the lap spay truly is, or love spay is. And then our website, as I say, you can go to that, look at it, and just make sure that you have a lot of really good information on there that is engaging for the clients. This is one of the ways that we use social media, and it's called the Love for Fosters program, where we provide free love space for foster dogs. They've had a rough start. Maybe we can make their life a little bit better by, giving them a less painful and traumatic spay. And the nice thing about that, it's really good, publicity for us, but also it allows our new doctors to get more cases under their belts, because then they're going to have these foster dogs that they can kind of hone their skills on and make sure they're feeling really comfortable when they start doing it on paying clients' dog as well. So that's also been good. So mass appeal. How do we, this worked for us, laparoscopy worked for us as a worst case scenario. Again, thinking about how we initially started doing this is almost the minimum, what you can expect on return on investment if you kind of follow some of these rules. We had very few clients, but we did have some advantages. We were small and nimble, so it was easy to make some changes. We were in an economically advantaged area, which was nice, and we had little to no competition in our space. But at the same time, you got to think about it. What about an established 5-doctor practice? How do we make it work for us? What about a high volume clinic? How do we make it work? What about, just got to make it work. if you believe in it and market it, you train your receptionists, get creative for your market and use it every day. This is a practice builder, and it's been great for us. Questions?
Yeah, we have a couple of final questions. One was, can you expand on Google Ads and what that is?
Yeah, so Google Ads there's a platform, and again, I'm not a not a Google ad specialist. I actually hire a team that helps to create the ads and monitor the ads and kind of optimize them for these various markets. But if you do a search for laparoscopic spay, Google's going to serve up 3 to 5 ads. You've seen this at the top of all the searches and along the sidebar over there. So I make sure that when somebody's searching for spay or laparoscopic spay or anything like that, that our ad comes up on that. And if they're searching for a traditional spay, I want them to see that there's a better way to spay, less painful spay. Come talk to us, go to our website. And so you're trying to get in front of them before they just start going to a neighboring or traditional spay type veterinary clinic.
Okay. And we have 2 more questions, and they're sort of along the same line. And the first one is, how about cats? Have you had success in marketing it to cat owners? Any special considerations? And the second question by another person is, do you have a size cutoff for your love spays?
Yeah, good question. So I've done, I think, 2 cat lap spays, and I don't do them anymore. I didn't personally find the benefit, because instead of 1 keyhole incision, I'm doing 2, and then cats don't really handle the insufflation as well. You have to do it at a lower rate, and their ligaments, if you're only doing an ovariectomy, you can make your incision more cranially, so you're not trying to remove their ovary or their uterus. So your incision is a lot more cranial, and those ovaries are right there. Their ligament is stretchier. I don't have to rip that off. I can actually just cut that. So in cats, I haven't found the benefit, even though Brad Case did publish a paper, I believe, on that, showing that there is some pain benefit to it. The other question about size limits. So I think the smallest dog I've done is 2 pounds, and up to 180 or 200 pounds. So we've done the whole spectrum, and it's been possible every single time using all the same equipment. So I do 2 5mm ports on those tiny dogs, but we've been able to do very, very small animals.
Okay, great. This has been fantastic, Brian. You've got me convinced, so that's great. Again, thanks so much for presenting this. This will be something that I'm sure a lot of people want to go back and review, and this recording is available free, as well as all of our webinars. So people can go in and pick out any webinar that they want to see. Next week, we're going to be joined by Dr. Brendan McKiernan, and he's going to talk about endoscopic laryngeal examination. Do you know how to do a good laryngeal examination? It appears that laryngeal disease, as we'll hear from Dr. McKiernan, is much more common than most of us think. So his presentation will not be next week, but it will be the following week, November 11th at 8 p.m. New York time. And remember that you can view previous endoscopy talks by just going to endoscopytalk.com. So wishing you all well in your practice, and of course, the best of health during these challenging times. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks to listen to Dr. McKiernan. Thank you very much.